What are the intake mistakes costing you cases every single day when a debtor lead calls your office?
You are watching 720 System Strategies, the #1 YouTube channel for bankruptcy attorneys, hosted by Tirone.
Here with Rich Mack, head of Pillars Bankruptcy Intake. You and your team have done over 20,000 intakes, right? I mean, we
well over 25,000 at this point. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, well, I mean, obviously it keeps going more and more and more at every week. And we've been working together for a long time. So I've seen how you've nuanced this, right?
Yeah.
And I really want to focus on what are the big mistakes that you see when it comes to intaking. So let's define what an intake is. A lead comes off the street and you have them right there. You know, as John Orcutt says, the best time to talk to a lead, a debtor lead, is when they're on the phone, right? So
Yep.
they're calling in, you have them on the phone. What are the biggest mistakes when it comes to intakes that you see?
Number one thing, and I tell all of my team, in that first 10 seconds, connect with them and tell them that you're somebody that understands what they're going through and you're here to help. So I think a lot of times we assume that when the call comes in, attorney will just assume like, hey, this client just wants me to solve their problems. What they really need is somebody that's going to be compassionate and have that empathy to connect with them on that level instead of just having it be black and white, cut and dry, and just a dry conversation. People will hire you, a client will hire you when they feel like you can be compassionate and you understand them, you're going to solve their problems and you're an ally to assist them.
How do you build that emotional connection? I mean, in 10 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a
So,
lot of time, but like, how do you
yeah.
do that?
Hey, Phil, I'm glad we got connected today. Thanks for calling in. I want to get to know, I'm going to ask you a few questions, get to know a little bit. But first off, tell me a little bit about why you're calling today. What are your problems? What's going on? And then just be quiet. And then they'll start dumping. Sometimes they cry. And then the next thing out of my mouth is like, I understand. Like, I've been in your shoes before. Life is hard. Sounds like you've been through a lot. Sounds like to me, you're ready for a break.
Yeah.
And usually as soon as I say, it sounds like you're ready for a break, when they just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg of all of the problems and all the stress that they're dealing with. They're like, oh my gosh, I do need a break. Like, you just almost hear that relief in their voice.
A common thing I've heard from a lot of bankruptcy attorneys is sometimes clients will talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Like, how long do you let them go and how do you redirect them?
Well, for me, it's a little bit easy because with our process, we have their data, we have their phone, their email address, the first and last name. So while they're talking, I'm copying, pasting that into one of our intake forms. So by the time I'm done copying, pasting that, they're typically done. Or I'll say something like, oh my gosh, it sounds like you're going through a lot. So I'll cut them off and be like, sounds like you're going through a lot and you're ready for a break. So in order for me to help you, I need to ask you a few questions. I'm going to identify exactly what your needs are, how bankruptcy is going to help you. And then once I'm done with this questionnaire, I'm going to tell you, I'll have a better idea of what I can do to help you move forward. So I'm going to ask you some questions, get to know you a little bit better, and then we're going to move forward from there. Is that okay? And then, oh yeah, absolutely. And then as I'm going through the intake, this is the other thing is if it's just cut and dry, I know sometimes attorneys like to do it in 10 or 15 minutes. We take 20 to 30 for my team. I know not all law firms and a lot of people don't have that time. However, I feel to do a full intake and and we started working together, Phil, because I was able to see 720 and the services you add. And this is probably the biggest mistake is I remember like one of our earlier conversations when I first started doing intake, and I'm like, wait a minute, you have all these services that you offer these law firms where they can help their
Yeah.
clients. And they don't talk about it in that
Yeah.
first conversation. You're like, yeah. I'm like, why? You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, and they're paying you to do this. So it's bizarre to me. So that's one of I think those are the biggest mistakes I identify is not incorporating the things that
The
are going
the
to do.
value adds that the attorney has,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yes.
what I hear often is the value add the attorneys talk about is this free consultation.
Yeah.
And everyone offers a free consultation. Like everyone's offering the free consultation.
And
Like, what
one thing
else
comes, yeah.
are they doing?
Remember we're at NACWA and we're talking about somebody's fees. I'm like, okay, what sets you apart from I can't remember who we were talking to. I think it was her name. I think what sets you apart from other attorneys? Oh, I'm hardworking. I'm dedicated. I'm
Mhm.
compassionate, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
I'm a boutique firm. This is what they
yeah,
say. I'm a boutique. You're going to get a lot of my attention.
So talking about mistakes, that's a big one. That's what every law firm says.
Yeah.
Like, so what sets you apart?
Yeah.
So the
So let me,
value.
before we dive in, so step number one is have an emotional connection, right? That's a
Yeah.
real key thing. Step number two is what sets you apart from every law firm out there. And most attorneys do one of two things: a free consultation, or they a price to the bottom, like as if the price matters,
Oh
right?
my, right. It's
So,
right.
but before we go to price, let's talk about this differentiation. We talked about this at NACPA. You and I were on stage together. We talked about, fear gets the call, future gets the filing. How are you incorporating the value adds into the free intake? And keep in mind, all these value adds are free
Yes.
to the debtor and the debtor attorney, right? Like it's not that complicated, right?
Right.
Speak into it. How how do you bring it up? Like how do you bring up credit? And how do you bring up the card? How do you bring the review of the credit report? Like how do you bring these things up
So
in
when I
the
s
intake? Like in the
Yeah,
intake.
so when I first started doing intake, as a professional, sales is my career, and I've spent a lot of time and money educating myself on sales, and so I see these value adds. I'm like, okay, so I put questions into my intake form that are going to create that conversation. So we don't need to know what their credit score is, but to me, that's a huge selling point, and also that helps me identify how urgent bankruptcy is. So say, what is your credit score? And most people, I'd say like 95% of them have a horrible credit score. There's a few that are still maintaining their payments, and they
Right.
just, "I can't afford anymore, and I'm getting ahead of this."
Right.
But 95% of them, so, wow, how like, so I have a 480 credit score here all the time, or I have 520, or, like, it's typically mid 500s
Mhm.
and lower are common, and so when they say that, like, "Okay, and then how long has your credit score been low like that?" Like,
Right.
"Oh, for a
Right.
long time." And, "Okay, well, I wanna tell you that after bankruptcy, we have a partnership with 720creditscore.com. So they give you all the links, tools, and resources to build your credit quickly after bankruptcy. So after your bankruptcy, just for being our client, we're gonna give that to you for free. And our clients that use it, they're seeing credit scores go, 700 or better within about 9 to 12 months, give or take,
Right.
depending on how we do it. So that's one way to do it. And
So
then,
you start that key by asking what's your credit score? Because you're not I've
yeah,
seen that on your intake form, and I've been wondering, like,
yeah,
wonder why you asked about the credit. So
right.
you asked about the credit score to pivot to, hey, you're gonna have a 720 credit score.
Yeah. So now
Okay.
not only am I compassionate, I actually am offering something that shows I'm compassionate and it's gonna help
Mhm.
the client.
Yeah,
And
right.
then I can like, "Hey," like, "Okay, well, what do you wanna do with your credit?" Like, "Well, I wanna get a better car." Like, "I wanna get I've never had, like, a good car loan," or, "No, our goal is always to buy a house." I'm like, "Great. Did you know that after bankruptcy, you follow 720 credit score, those things, you can buy a house 2 years after bankruptcy. Did you know
Yeah,
that?"
yeah.
"No, I didn't." I'm like, "Okay." Looking at you, and then I like, looking at your debt, I hit that pain. Looking at your debt, you make what? $75,000 a year. You have $55,000 in credit card debt. In your current situation, that goal of buying a house right now in your current situation is not looking very good.
Yeah.
Probably not gonna get there in 2 years. Bankruptcy can take you there in 2 years, so you can reach that goal a lot sooner with bankruptcy. So now I just created urgency, and just like you said, I created that future idea, and I'm starting to paint a
Okay.
picture of how bankruptcy is gonna help them.
So you take the credit score, you move them into this, and then you're asking, what do you wanna do with a good credit score?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
they say buy a house, you're already future pacing
Yes.
to the house purchase, right?
And and a lot of times it's just a car. A lot of people don't want it, like, that's not it, but, like,
Right.
I just we get a good deal on a car. "Hey, did you know you can finance a car through Ash Auto or in at most dealerships as early as a day after you file?" "Oh,
Yeah.
wow, really? I didn't know that." Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
and then we kinda go into those misconceptions, and that's another thing, is you want to solve speaking of mistakes and listing them, is not helping them understand the misconception of bankruptcy,
Mhm.
and like, making sure they understand that those misconceptions and a lot of the fears that they have with moving forward with the process are just not true.
So closing the loop on the value adds, the free car audit, the free credit improvement program, so they can future pace to get a car or a home or whatever. And just one thing I want to clarify for the debtor attorneys, you can get a home loan 12 months after 12 on-time payments of a Chapter 13, qualify for a new loan. Chapter 7 is 2 years after discharge, and there's down payment assistance programs for those people. So the third thing is addressing the misconception. So do you have like a set of misconceptions that you address, or like how do you handle that in your intake, especially when you have 15 or 20 people working for you? Like, how do
Yeah.
you qualify that?
Yeah.
Make sure
So
they're doing it.
all the misconceptions are basic. It's going to hurt your credit for 10 years. Big business puts that out there and the debt consolidation scammers. So the very bottom of every questionnaire, just to cover it, make sure that we understand what that person's specific concerns are about bankruptcy. We put a question on the bottom of every questionnaire. What are your biggest questions and concerns about bankruptcy? And then we have a note box. So we're taking the notes on that. And so, like, at the end of the conversation, we're having the client tell me what are their fears, what are their concerns. And then they tell us, like, well, I don't want to lose my house, or I don't want to lose my car. And then we can address that and overcome the misconceptions. And we can talk to them to what is most important to them.
And solving this biggest concern that they have in their brain. Do
Yeah.
you solve that in real time? Or are those notes for the attorney on their signing appointment?
Both. I feel like if we don't solve the problem in that
They won't
conversation,
show. Yeah. Yeah.
and feel comfortable, they're not going to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, the practicality is if debtors knew what we knew about bankruptcy, they'd file today.
Right.
It's
Right.
just all this misconceptions is junk in their head. Well,
Right.
what else? What else? What are other big mistakes when it comes to an intake?
Actually just segmented right into that. Moving forward, we qualify them, bankrupt, like, we ask them the questions, we spend that time with them. We know that bankruptcy is legally in their best interest. They're a good candidate. They have money and income. They can pay for the bankruptcy. We've overcome their conceptions now, and they're on the phone with us. They're at a peak moment where they're ready to do something to solve
Right.
problems. The one thing they did is pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing they can do is take action. Like, now they need to do something to solve their problem. And okay, it looks like bankruptcy is a good fit for you. To take that next step, we want to set you up with the next step. Here's the next step. Here's what you need to do next to move forward.
Yeah. Right.
Having them take action on that helps both of you, helps
So
the firm.
what is that? What is that next step for 3 pillars for you?
For the 3 pillars, it would say, "Hey, looks based on everything you told us, it looks like," and we don't no, we're not lawyers, we're not giving legal advice, so we say, "It looks like, based on what you told me, it looks like bankruptcy is gonna be the best fit for you, and it's gonna solve your problems. So what I wanna do now is I'm gonna send you a form, and then we talk to them about the fees, and so we set expectations with the fees, and in the conversation, we know that they can, have ability to pay for those. So the next step is we have them sign a letter of intent. Like, hey, here are the fees. Here's the attorney. I'm going to have you sign this letter of intent, say that you understand what the fee structure is. And then I'm going to set you up to have a appointment with a law firm, either paralegal or the attorney in the law firm. And they're going to do a more thorough review with you to help you move forward the bankruptcy. So, and then I have them sign the letter of intent. I schedule an appointment with them with the law firm directly, and I secure that appointment with a debit card or credit card.
Yeah.
So the
I
debit
remember when you started rolling that out and your show rate went through the roof.
Yes, it was like
Went through the
50,
roof.
60%. As soon as we implemented that debit card thing, the show rate went like 90, 95% after.
And just for nuance, the credit card is not charging their first payment for bankruptcy. It's just a no-show fee. It's like, hey, if you cancel, there's no cost, but if you don't cancel, it's $50, right?
If they
And
just no show without letting us know ahead of time, there's a $50 fee, and it's right there on the letter of intent. Everybody's like, "Well, aren't they afraid to give you a debit card?" Blah, blah. I'm like, "There's a
yeah.
small percentage of them are, but that's also a good filter to us to tell us whether or not they're serious about moving forward."
I mean, your numbers just speak for themselves. Like, it really surprises me how many people you talk to for the full intake versus how many people go all the way, right? Like, I mean, it's significant. It's significant. If you look through those forms of who doesn't give a credit card or a debit card and who doesn't sign the letter of intent, it's like 1 out of 10 maybe, right? It's most move forward and get there.
That's my biggest thing that I'm so proud of my team because they understand all of that. They're well trained and we're also passionate about helping people, like my entire team. And so them doing that job, like, just tells me that they're helping the debtor, they're helping the client, and the results speak for themselves.
Use these techniques internally, right? The purpose of this video is to share with you what you can do with your intake person, right?
Mhm.
Your intake person you have it right there in your front office, which is great. But they better be a people person, right? They
Yeah.
gotta be a people person, and they have to have a heart of caring. I was
Mhm.
talking to one attorney, she was a large filer, and I was floored when I spoke to the person who answers the phone.
Mhm.
And it just something seemed off, so I was talking to this lady, and I was like, "So, what are you seeing with all these people we're sending your way?" And she gave me a reasoning, and I was like, "Well, good thing, you believe in bankruptcy, right?" And she's like, "Oh, I would never, ever file bankruptcy." I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, but I understand you don't need to. But if someone's in a situation, bankruptcy is a win for them if this is the right thing." Well, I mean, and she was just continuously hedging. I called the attorney, like, "You got to get this girl off the front floor." She's like the worst person to answer the question,
It's
right?
like hiring a vegetarian to be a waitress at a steakhouse.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, it just doesn't work. So, the whole thing for the debtor attorney watching, incorporate, this connection early on. Teach them on the value adds that you get for free from us and from various partners. Break down the misconceptions. I love that question before you get them off the phone. Hey,
Yeah.
what's on your mind? Fourth, get the debit card so they show up for the next appointment,
Yeah.
right? And then have a people person answering the phone. Like, these are really, really, really important things. And
Right.
and you're gonna naturally see your intakes coming up. These leads are so expensive that come in. This first line of defense is so important and, like, can be magical. Make or break an office.
Yeah, absolutely, and I've seen it do both too.
And I know you have. I mean, you've
Yeah.
taken people from almost closing down their bankruptcy shop to highly profitable. Rich, what else is on your mind with regard to intakes? Biggest mistakes? Anything else come to mind?
No, I feel like we're pretty thorough, but, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Make sure the person that's talking to your clients believes in bankruptcy and believes what you do, because you can't fake authenticity, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, it's something because people feel it over the phone. They
yeah,
absolutely feel it over the phone, and they will get burned out, and they're like, "Something just doesn't feel right about this law firm."
right.
Right? And,
But
when you have these leads coming in, whether they're paid leads or they're not, like referrals, you worked for that referral.
right,
You've paid. It's just money walking in the door or either walking out or retaining.
absolutely.
What else? Anything else? Did I
Yeah,
did I
just
stop you?
making sure they make a next step. So if I'm in intake, we're setting that next appointment with the law firm. And if
Yep.
I'm a lawyer answering my own, okay, bankruptcy is a good fit for you. What I need you to do next is I need you to sign a retainer. And then this is actually biggest one. So I know the mistakes like the intake for my team, but if I'm a lawyer and I'm doing my own intake, I can easily send the client a retainer, and this is actually the biggest mistake for attorneys is like, "Hey, I'm gonna send a retainer, sign it when I see you come back to you, we'll make your next appointment." Like, you have them on the phone, they're ready to go.
Mhm.
Bankruptcy makes sense for you, I'm sending you a retainer, open your email, do you have any questions about that?
Sign it
But
right then.
I've
Well,
seen lawyers spend 20, 30 hours a week chasing clients down later when they could spend an extra 10 or 15 minutes with them, have them sign that retainer and set them up on the payment plan and move them forward. And that one tip right there has been the number one thing of me being a top performer salesperson in every industry I've been in.
so we're gonna link to a video that we did with Josh Green, and it's when Rich took over his retainer appointments. So what I mean is he did the LOIs before, but instead of setting an appointment with the office attorney, we set an appointment with Rich, and Rich would get the retainer signed. And we're with the same exact lead flow, same exact lead, same exact process. This is the only change was Rich. We went
Mhm.
from 9% to I think 85%.
Yeah.
Well, the video will be in the description. This is not hypothetical, right? What
Right.
you do when you're on those retainer appointments, you're filling out the retainer in my case or whatever software they
Right.
use, and you're sending it to them while you're on the phone. So how does that work practically? Like how often do they have questions regarding the actual retainer? Because those retainers can be what, 5 pages long? How long? I don't even
Yeah.
know.
8. Yeah.
Okay. So
Really.
8 pages long. How long does it take them to read it? Do they feel pressured? What is the deal on that?
No, so that's kind of what I do is like, it's the authenticity of me connecting with the client. And I feel like, we're connected to best practices, some of the biggest filers and practices everywhere. And with our experience between you and I, we see what has led to a bankruptcy practice failing and what has
Mhm.
led to them being like top filer in the state. And so we can take all of this, best practices and put them together to create the success. And the one thing I learned in after intake is it's not just a black and white conversation. These people still want that compassion, and so all I did was put the right people on the bus. I think you referenced that book. Make sure good
Good,
to go,
great. Jim
good to go.
Collins, good, great. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure the right people are on the bus. And I noticed that this law firm in, Summit Bankruptcy in Utah, they didn't have the right person on the bus for the post intake appointment. So I started taking those over. And, as a paralegal, I understand the law well enough where I can answer those basic questions. And then I'm helping, I'm reading the retainer agreement myself. So I understand all of it. So if
Mhm.
somebody has a question about it, I can intelligently answer their question and help them move forward. But what I'm doing is like having them sign the retainer and then I'm collecting the first payment or setting up the next payment. And so that's
And how
been,
long does that how often do they have questions on that retainer?
if I'm being honest, not very often.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, sometimes these people don't even read it. They just, I tell them this is what you need to do the next step. And they don't, as you guys know, if anybody's working with this, they don't really read it. But when they do have questions, like sometimes they're concerned, usually it's in the first few paragraphs.
right.
And this is the value of like going over the retainer with them on the phone because all
Right.
the retainers are going to look different. So if they have any concerns on the retainer and you're not on the phone with them, they're not going to sign it and move forward unless
No,
you get
they're not
resolved it.
gonna sign it, and then you gotta go through the hassle of getting them on the phone again. Who's
Right.
gonna call them? Are they available? Do they feel comfortable talking to the person that gets them on the phone? Are you available? I mean,
Or
it's
you hire
massively complex.
yeah, you hire your receptionist to get in touch with them, and then they have a
Yeah,
question. The
and
receptionist can't answer.
it just sunk
Yep.
cost.
You just whatever money you paid to get that lead on the phone just went down the drain.
Rich, you mentioned something I don't wanna miss. You talk about charging right away or setting up a new payment plan.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about the practicality when you're on the retaining appointment. So this is for attorneys who are taking their own calls. They're sending out the retainers, they're getting it signed. How do you handle what would you recommend for attorneys to get the first payment set or collected?
Yeah, first of all, you gotta set it up properly. So the intake, we're asking the question. So as a professional salesperson, you have to get the information that's going to help the client. So some of the information I get, so our intake form is very specific. We're collecting data so we can help the client. And in order to help the client, we have to get money to help the client move forward with the bankruptcy. So those questions are, what is your income? How much money do you make? What is your household spouse? So we have all that data.
Yeah,
And we ask how much money do you currently have in your bank account? So we know, like, are they paycheck to paycheck? Are they negative in an account? And then when is your next payday is another question. So we know their income, their next payday, what their bills are. Are they currently paying their credit card bills? Are they not? What payments can they start
right,
missing for
right.
13 or 7? So we have all that data. So you collect the data and say, okay, in order to help you move forward, you tell them this is how bankruptcy works. These are the bills you can start missing. Or if they have money in their bank account, just don't ask them, how much do you want to pay today?
No,
They don't want to pay anything.
yeah,
So
right.
don't ask that question. Say, I noticed when you talked to the intake team 2 days ago, you had $1,500 in your bank account. How much of that are you able to put towards your bankruptcy today?
Got it.
And let them answer. And so asking that question, because how much do you want to pay? They don't want to pay anything. That's the biggest mistake is people ask the wrong question.
And then
So
whatever they pay, then the next thing is to set up an automatic draft, right?
yes. And this is another thing as I learned that people want stress off of their shoulders. So signing the retainer, tell them, okay, sign the retainer that establishes a relationship between you and the law firm. You're now a client of the law firm. However, the law firm can't do any legal work until they have money. You have to pay them to do legal work. So I set a baseline price with whatever the law firm wants. and said, as long as you're getting X amount of dollars, how much money do you need to be able to start taking creditor calls on behalf of the client? And so I have the law firms exchange services. So they say, I want $400 a month. We'll put them on a $400 a month payment plan. And in exchange for that, we're going to take the stress off the client's shoulders and we're going to start taking their creditor calls.
Yeah.
So that exchange, like, okay, and then they sign the retainer, it's in the retainer. Okay, as long as you pay us $400 a month, we'll take the creditor calls, we'll give you a number and a small little script of what to say to them. And then we're going to keep your file open. And then we have that structure and those parameters as well. So I set up the first payment, collect the first payment, set it up, and then move forward. And a lot of times they have that money, especially right now in tax season. There's a lot of money. For one firm recently, just for the month of April, that's not over quite yet, we've collected almost $30,000 for one firm just by doing it.
That's a big help. That's a huge, huge win on that. So I hope the debtor attorneys are watching. I want you to think about your intake person, whoever's answering the phone, and really just, rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. Have them watch this video. Ask them, do you feel comfortable doing this? This is an education tool. Every time you hire an intake person, have them watch this video. I mean, this is what these videos are made for. Rich Mack, 3 Pillars Bankruptcy Intake. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Bill.